The year is 1998, and Nintendo is currently working on its successor to the N64, the Nintendo GameCube. Ooh. All's going about as expected, but there's a bit of a problem. You see, their competitor Sony had cornered a lot of game sales with their Sony PlayStation, and that was due to how they marketed themselves as the cooler, more mature console, while the N64 was kinda just handed the title of kiddie or family friendly. Of course, in hindsight, that kind of statement doesn't really hold up to scrutiny, as when we look at the actual games being released on the N64 and PlayStation, it's about 50-50 kids and more mature content. But it's as they say, hindsight's 20/20. Back then, it was playground rules, and you needed the cooler console to be cool. And Nintendo believed, it couldn't hurt to try and take a swing at this older crowd. And lucky for them, the man for the job was about to approach them with an offer. Jeff Spangenberg, founder of Iguana Studios and their dinosaur hunting series Turok on the N64, wanted to partner with Nintendo, and they agreed, leading to the creation of Retro Studios, with the mission to develop 4 games for the GameCube to appeal to this more mature audience. Now, 3 of these games wouldn't amount to much, but one did catch Nintendo's eye. You see, after Retro got to work with Rare on Jet Force Gemini, they were down the cloud to make their own third-person shooter, Metaforce, a third-person shooter that followed 3 sexy female metahumans as they tried to take down 3 evil masterminds from taking over the world. Each of the women would have gotten their own campaign where they would have fought one of the bad guys, and the game's campaigns put together would have lasted around 30 hours. Now, the reason the team had a hard-on for the 3 women, phrasing, being the player characters was due to the belief that if you're playing a game for that long, a lot of players would rather stare at a woman over a man. And to be honest, fair enough. I know plenty of men and women both who always choose girl characters for that exact same reason. Well, after so many drafts worked up for the game by both Nintendo and Retro, it was getting to the point where they wondered if this thing was ever going to get off the ground. The boys at Retro actually started to joke to themselves that every time a draft reached 1,000 pages of design documents, that it was going to be cancelled. Which I imagine was really funny to everyone except the one poor bastard who had to write all that shit a good 7 to 8 times at this point. For context, my longest script is only like 24 pages, so do with that what you will. But eventually Retro and Nintendo got to the point where they settled on an idea. An alien-themed first-person shooter where you played as an alien that crashed on Earth a long time ago, and then was forced to become a government agent in order to fight off an invading group of aliens who were trying to take over the Earth. For a moment, Retro started to breathe easy, and that's when Miyamoto walked into the room, saw the invaders, and said, "Hey, those kind of look like space pirates. You guys want to do a Metroid game instead?" Now, of course, the team were ecstatic for such an opportunity, except for that one poor bastard who had to write another 3,000 page of design documents, goddamn. But this was an offer they could not refuse, which then led us finally to the main topic of this video, Metroid Prime. Development on Prime was hectic and was almost cancelled a few times over disagreements between the 2 companies. Retro really wanted the game to be a third-person shooter so they can show off their awesome Samus model, but Miyamoto was adamant on the game staying in the first-person perspective. Then, at one point, they were having trouble with the Morph Ball, and then Miyamoto came in and said they might as well not even make the game if they couldn't get that right. And then, we had the GameCube itself. We'll get there. The first 2 ended up working themselves out, with Retro later saying that the decision for the game to be in first person was absolutely the right call by Miyamoto, but they still wanted their Samus model to have the spotlight, so they incorporated multiple cutscenes and other excuses to show it off, which also helped them get the Morph Ball right. With these 2 issues, it was just listening and taking advice from Miyamoto. They said that there was a reason he was the best in the business, and they were right to listen to him. Though, the reveal of the GameCube didn't really sit right at first. Before it was shown to the team, they were told it was going to be extremely powerful, and that it was going to use a twin-stick setup like the PS2, with Nintendo's prototype at the time even looking like that console but just transparent. This got Retro really excited to make a new killer first-person shooter to rival all the others that recently took over the genre in the console scene. But when they saw the final version alongside its controller, it disappointed them. One thing was it was not the powerhouse mature console they were told it was going to be, especially with its odd lunchbox design. And the controller looked to them like, well, in their words, it was made to play Miyamoto games. And not the first-person shooter they were making. Which, yeah, say what you will about the GameCube controller being peak or whatever, but that little nipple on the bottom right ain't comfy to play a first-person shooter with. Ugh, reportedly, a few Retro staff quit on the spot. But they continued on nevertheless, and it was all worth it when during the Space World 2000, Metroid Prime was revealed, and it took the world by storm, making Retro extremely happy to say the least, and taking Nintendo completely by surprise. Yeah, they did not have that much stock in Metroid as a franchise. The games always did okay in the West, but they never sold all that great in Japan, which was and still kind of is Nintendo's main proving ground. So to see Prime get such a warm reception was great. But also low-key terrifying, because that failure to launch is why they gave it to the fledgling Retro Studios, and let them do whatever they wanted with Prime's story and continuity. Retro was making the game under the impression that it was a whole reboot, and they had that impression even after the game had already launched, which spurred Nintendo on to make a new 2D Metroid to come out alongside Prime with Metroid Fusion, as a sort of backup in case things didn't pan out. After this, Retro spent a long time perfecting the first level to reach Nintendo's new standards for the project, which apparently took so long that they only had 9 months to finish the rest of the project, with employees working 80 to 100 hour weeks to get it done. God, maybe we shouldn't complain about Metroid Prime 4 taking like 10 years. Devs are people too, you know. I'm glad we have that lesson locked in now. But speaking of locked in, or I guess locked on, Metroid Prime, as you can tell, is a first-person shooter, originally coming out for the GameCube with 2 re-releases on the Wii and the Switch respectively. Though those 2 are more than just that, with one being a remastered collection of all 3 Prime games, and the other being a full-blown remake! But still call it a remaster, because I don't know, this shit's pretty confusing. All 3 have their own methods of controlling, with the GameCube being the definite worst in my opinion with how much it relies on the player's lock-on abilities, especially with its free aim making you stop in place due again to this stupid little nipple. But at least it had quick switching between visors and beams. The Wii version had motion aiming, and it was probably the overall best, especially when it came to precision. It's not talked about enough for how well the Wii Remote acts as pretty much the best first-person controller ever made, especially when it comes to that aspect. And I really should make that one video I said I would on the subject. But the best way to play Prime, in my opinion, is the remaster's gyro and stick aim. The perfect mix of controller comfortability with the Wiimote's aiming. Kinda. The Switch gyro isn't necessarily as accurate as the Wiimote's, so when used as a replacement, it kinda falls short. But when it's used to mimic it for smaller, more precise motions, that's where it really shines. And it's wonderful here. I enjoy this control scheme a lot. And it comes with bumper jumper already included. Oh my god, yes! Oh, I wish we could do something to like remap the beams and visor switching. Holding X was natural after a while, but not as natural as the GameCube or Wii switching. But otherwise, perfect controls. We're sticking for the remaster for this playthrough for this feature alone. Which, hey, might as well, as all the versions play Prime the exact same way. Metroid Prime uses the typical adventure format that Metroid has had since its introduction, but now in a different perspective. We're dealing with a combination of first-person shooter and 3D platforming. We still have all the same Metroid trappings of exploring a wide variety of different areas, with Samus exploring every nook and cranny looking for different power-ups and upgrades, but this time in 3D. And for the most part, it works really well. And we even get this cool looking 3D map to really help you find the right XYZ coordinates and such. Though, if you're still having trouble getting around, the game gives you little hints with the suit's AI detecting new items or potential uses for said items. It's really helpful since Prime can get a bit confusing with all of its backtracking, which of course is in every Metroid game, but it gets a bit troublesome in a 3D game, since we don't get the full scope of an area like we would from a 2D perspective. I still have a little bit of trouble remembering where I need to go sometimes, even with my multiple playthroughs. But I may just be bad at the game. I sure as fuck can't do or don't know all the sequence breaking this time around. But it's not just the gameplay that's familiar, as Samus herself has all of her usual trappings, including upgrades like missiles or health, alongside Samus's more unique equipment, such as the Ice Beam to freeze enemies, the Morph Ball to reach usually inaccessible areas, the Grapple Beam to Tarzan your way around, a literal goddamn nuke! You know, just the typical things a woman needs to keep on her in this dangerous galaxy. Teehee. But we also got some newcomers as well, including a new version of the Wave and Plasma Beam, which makes them electric and heat-based alongside their usual properties, though they aren't necessarily stronger than your base Power Beam. The game actually treats the 4 beams as separate weapons you can switch to open certain doors or take on enemies with elemental weaknesses. It's actually a really cool approach to combat, considering the way it's usually handled in Metroid, where you kind of just stack each beam on top of each other, slowly gaining a stronger and stronger attack. Here, they're like other weapons Samus can swap to like in other first-person shooters. The Ice Beam is like a shotgun, the Plasma Beam's a rifle, and the Wave Beam is a creative laser that can even go through walls. With the beams even having their own cool super missile upgrade, which gives us the Ice Spreader, a Flamethrower, and a Ghostbuster Beam. That's just cool. I like the new emphasis on the beam power-ups, but I don't really care how they're used for doors. I mean, sure, I get that they're used to block off the player from an area till they get the proper upgrade. That's fine, we've done this since the first game. But I mean, having the doors keep their elemental lock even after we open them once already is just kind of... I know, not a big deal, but we swap between beams a lot in the game already, and it's practically the main gimmick. And for enemies, that's fine, but doing it so frequently to just go room to room just kind of hurts the pacing a little bit. That's really my only problem with the beams. You swap so frequently, it kind of just breaks the pacing when I have to stop and swap, blast a door, then stop, swap again, blast another door, and then another. It's not a huge deal, it just got on my nerves. Some of Samus's base abilities got some nice upgrades though, with the Charge Beam now being able to draw in health and missiles from a distance, which is such a nice quality of life feature, and I can't remember if they bring this into later 2D games, but they should, it's great. The Morph Ball got a nice workaround as well, with its Boost Ball now allowing Samus to quickly boost around areas, and use these sick Tony Hawk half pipes. Ready to go! But we also got the Bounce Ball that's inherently a part of the Morph Ball, which I like a lot better than having it as an upgrade, and it makes the bomb jumping puzzles a lot easier. Though this isn't in the GameCube original, so watch out for that. The Space Jump got a little bit of a nerf, now only allowing Samus to double jump, but that's understandable. This isn't a 2D cave exploring game. Here, there's not always a roof to stop us, and in a 3D game, an infinite jump may be a little too broken. Now, the biggest upgrade to Samus's abilities is the visor system. This includes a scan visor, which allows Samus to scan objects, enemies, upgrades, water, rocks, lava, your mom, chicken weeds, hemp seeds, Nintendo, GameCube, PlayStation, your mom. It scans a lot of shit. And help the player reach new areas, learn some world lore, or enemy weaknesses. This was actually not going to be in the game, as Retro thought it was kind of boring, but Nintendo said it would be popular in Japan, which, yeah, I guess it was. I really like the scan visor, for being honest. The idea for the visors actually came from Miyamoto, when he asked the team what would it be like if Samus had a bug's head, which Retro interpreted as Samus using her visor to get another perspective on the world. Though I like to think that Miyamoto is just saying shit sometimes, and somehow it becomes an amazing game mechanic, which is hilarious to me. What should we do for this new Mario game? Oh, hey, Mr. Miyamoto. Do you have any thoughts on what we should do for Mario? Hot dog water. What? Fuck does he mean by hot dog water? Water. Oh my god. Oh my god. We should get Mario water powers. Oh, and when do you eat hot dogs the most? In the sunny months of summer. Mario Sunshine! The alternate perspective thing makes more sense with the other visors. The X-ray scope and the thermal vision, which gives us predator vision and ghost vision, which is cool. The visuals of Metroid Prime are honestly amazing. Triply so if we're talking the HD remaster. Metroid is in the 3D now, and Retro Studios are taking advantage of that. We get to see all the Metroid staples here in a brand new light, like vibrant magma caves, ancient alien ruins, wrecked spaceships sunken into the sea, along with some new areas. Since Samus spends a lot of time above ground now, we got waterfall jungles, frigid ice areas, and then a space pirate base filled to the brim with their little fucked up experiments. Ending things off with, whoa there, cowpoke. No need to start spoiling stuff, we'll get there. For now, let's look at the little things, like Samus's reflection in the visor, the raindrops dripping down the helmet, the fact you're able to see her bones form the right hand gestures for each beam in X-ray mode. I know all this is expected in an HD game, but don't get it twisted. The original GameCube game 20 years back had all of this and technically more. Okay, maybe not more exactly, but Prime is still a beautiful game, no matter what way you decide to play it. The world is vast and interesting, the monsters and pirates have disgustingly wonderful designs, and the ruins look so ancient and lived in. Samus's power armor and ship look so good as well, so detailed, so colorful. You can see why Retro was so excited to show off their work. They did a great job. When most people think about Samus Aran, this is the look they think of. It's iconic. Except if you're Sakurai for some reason. The music is quintessential Metroid. Seriously, most of the tracks you'll hear from the series are from Metroid Prime. It's such a good original soundtrack, with back-to-back hits like Chozo Ruins. Magmoor Caverns. Phendrana Drifts. Or how about, hey, Future Chubby here editing this shit. I'm just gonna pause this right here because I just basically list off every other sound in the fucking game. Look, just go listen to it for yourself. It's great. It's really good. Back to the video. But you get what I'm saying. Metroid Prime's music is phenomenal, and they did such a good job on it. Alright, it's time for story. Skip here to avoid all story spoilers for Metroid Prime. So, sometime after the events of Metroid 1, wait, I probably should explain the timeline here. While Metroid Prime was in development, the boys at Retro had no idea when or where the game was going to take place in the timeline. When the project was in its early stages, Nintendo and Retro agreed that Prime should be a guiding game, aka a reboot. And you know, after 8 years of no games, that makes a lot of sense. At least, kinda. There were plans for a Metroid game on the N64, but it was cancelled for a variety of reasons. Mostly centering around the fact that a Metroid game would probably not be that fun to play with the 3 dongs. Fair enough. So Retro just made Prime with no worries as to where it fits in the timeline. They just added what they wanted from other games and they'd let Nintendo sort it out. Which they did, by placing them before Metroid 2, but after Metroid 1. Basically, the only part of the timeline where these fuckers actually exist. You know, maybe killing them off in the second game wasn't the best idea. But anyway, sometime after the events of Metroid 1, Samus' ship gets a distress call alerting her to an abandoned research station over the planet. I'm sorry, is there a fucking echo in here? Who the fuck is talking? Am I the one doing this video or you, asshole? That would be the opening narration added to the European and Japanese release of Metroid Prime, as well as announce the area Samus is in when she loads a save. Now, this may be my dipshit American brain talking, but these kinda suck. Like, for one, sorry. Like, for one, the opening and ending narration just kind of ruins the mood that's set with this somber, quiet opening. And now it's filled with all this bullshit about the history of humanity, which is, like, worthless in a series like Metroid, which really doesn't give two shits about humanity's role in the universe. And hey, maybe it's just because I didn't really know this shit even existed till the remaster, which may be why I don't care for it, but you have to admit, the European/Japanese names for a lot of these areas kinda suck. Like Magmore Caverns is called
Lava caves.
lame, or Fendrana Drifts being called
Ice Valley.
Did you people even try with these? The alien sounding stuff is way cooler. Though the new AI voice for Samus's suit is nice, I do like it. Though now I'm stuck wondering at what point in the timeline she's gonna be switched with the one from Nintendo Land. Which is a really cool reference that I'm glad Dread did. It was cool. Where was I? Oh, right. Sometime after Metroid 1, blah blah blah, distress signal, blah blah blah, Samus goes to save. But she finds the place in absolute ruin, with corpses of different creatures, machines, and the returning space pirates, who have definitely seen better days. The pirates seem to have a vested interest in the planet below, seeing as they brought a lot of its wildlife onto the vessel for either study or experimentation. But the fauna doesn't seem to be their main focus. Samus doesn't really have time to figure all that out though, as she finds what busted this place up, a mutated parasite known as the Parasite Queen. And after battling the monster, the ship's self-destruct activates, cause fuck you, and now Samus has to make a mad dash out of there, but not before coming face to face with a rebuilt version of Ridley. After she blasted his ass to smithereens in their last fight. From now to the end of Samus Returns, he's known as Meta Ridley. Ooh, Meta Ridley now, huh? What accent will it be this time? Pirate? Valley Girl? Oh, wait, let me guess. Beep boop, Meta Ridley, built to destroy, stupid hunter, beep boop bop, I am error, beep beep, boop. Huh. Just hope you aren't like a generative AI or nothing like that, I hate to win by hitting your Adobe looking ass with a ignore all previous instructions, and then have you, rewrite the space Bible and winding. God, this is a lot less fun when you don't talk back. I mean, give me something here. The Mechadactyl flies off, and Samus gives chase, and she's about to make it off the station when a random scan panel gets in the way. Oh, goddamn scan feature. Why can't I just shoot all my problems like in the old games? Come on, scan. Got it! Fuck! After that pre-explosion, gross, Samus loses a majority of her suit's functions, essentially stunning her ass back to square one from where we saw her in Metroid 1. Samus escapes the station as it fully goes under, following her mechanical rival to the surface of the nearby planet, Talon IV. Losing track of that bastard on the way down, Samus lands on the forested overworld, leading her to the nearby impact crater. A strange dark pit, no, not that one, strange dark pit with some ancient ruins floating above it. After scanning some of the nearby liquid, she learns that the crater seems to be holding back some sort of great poison, and that there is keys stround about the world she'll need to make her way down there. But she really doesn't need to go down there yet, so she fucks off to a nearby elevator that takes her down to the Chozo ruins, to try and figure some of this shit out. Wait, how the fuck did this thing take me down, but we're still, like, above the ground? I know the elevator sequences are iconic in Metroid, but some of these are not up and down jobs. Like, is this thing going left and right as well? Is it actually going like left and right, but just really, really fast? And the Chozo got like super gyros or something? What's with these things, honestly? Either way though, Samus gets to the ruins, and here she learns about Talon IV being an old settlement for the Chozo. And here they did a bunch of wild shit. Like try to see through the waves of time. They try to figure out the secrets of the universe. Like there was some serious weed here. I gotta have what they're smoking. Hell, they eventually began to be able to like ascend to a higher plane of consciousness. But this all turned out to be what they called a hollow gift, as they had no control of it or the dark visions that it gave them. Eventually, a meteorite crashed into the planet, and from it seeped this great poison, a parasite that seeks to corrupt and absorb the world. They don't know where this thing came from, but they know they need to stop it, and they gave their lives to try and contain it. They fail, and they all suffer a gruesome death, but they do foresee a hope for Talon IV, someone known as the Entrusted One. Take a wild guess who that's gonna be. Well, Samus, plus her old abilities and a few new ones, begin to explore Talon IV to figure out what this great poison was, why the pirates have such a fascination with the planet, and why the fuck are the ghosts of the Chozo attacking me? Do you want me to save this world or not? The story of Prime is good, and I like how a lot of it is handled through the use of the scan visor. It's the player's choice as to whether or not they want to learn, like, the whole thing that's going on around here. The pirates being here and them experimenting with shit like the Metroids is enough for Samus to just blow the place to hell, and that's probably good enough for most players. You know, Metroid is really not that big of a story-heavy franchise, at least main story-wise. There's a lot of lore here in Prime, but it keeps to the sideline for us to enjoy at our own pace. And isn't that exactly how we want to enjoy Metroid? Either sequence breaking things to go faster, or to slow down and take the time and explore everything. This story and how it's handled is perfect for how it elevates or even lowers itself in the eyes of the player to suit the way they want to play the game. And at the end of the day, isn't this exactly how stories should be in games? Something that contextualizes and improves the experience, giving us reason to what and why we're doing things, like rushing to dismantle Ridley for the umpteenth time, or to reward us for taking the path less traveled. I don't know, I think it is, at least in some sense. Maybe this philosophy doesn't work for all games, but here I think it does perfectly. Prime is here both for the lore junkies and the fighters, though don't go believing those are mutually exclusive. I love the boss fights in this game and how all of them are these corrupted versions of the life of Talon IV, either ruined by the space pirates or the great poison itself. They were all great. Though who the fuck threw that stone after the Thardus fight? Like, was that guy just trying to get a last laugh in? What an asshole. I love that bit of personality. Well, after making her way through the planet, Samus finally comes across the entrance to the space pirates' mine, where they seem to be mining the poison seeping out from the impact crater. Though they seem to refer to it as Phazon, and they are using it to corrupt all the creatures of Talon IV, including themselves and some Metroids they brought with them. And now all of its forces are sent to take down Samus, which they actually refer to as the Hunter, and come to find out, they're actually really fucking scared of her after what happened at Zebes, which is like really funny. In fact, they're very much aware that as soon as she shows up, their chances of survival go way down. They're so scared of her, they started reinventing her powers to give to all their soldiers, including the Morph Ball. That one didn't go too well. Well, after fighting her way through the forces, Samus finally makes it face to face with this big bastard. And after a good round of Where's Waldo, the fight ends with him giving up and trying to crush her with his radioactive beer gut. Ugh. Luckily though, this somehow works in Samus's favor, as his corpse is absorbed into Samus's suit, making the Phazon suit. Kinda wish we could absorb enemies all the time. With the pirates wiped out, it's time to see what the Great Poison's all about. But to get there, she needs to find those keys mentioned earlier, with her only clues being these cryptic hints left by the fallen Chozo. You know, I kinda wish Samus would comment on the fact that this is the second round of Chozo she's seen wiped out. Like, I mean, these are practically her people, and this isn't the first time they've went the way of the dodo. Ooh, that may be insensitive. But I don't know, Sammy, give me something here! But now begins the hunt across all of Talon IV for the keys. Sadly, a staple for the Prime series. On some level, I really understand why they'd want something like this in the game, as it acts as a good excuse for players to rediscover new aspects of older areas with all their new gear and upgrades. But at the same time, this game will already have you backtrack through each of these areas at least twice. So I don't know if something like this was really necessary. Plus, this can be annoying to figure out all the riddles and the locations the keys are in. But the internet exists, so I don't know, just look it up if you have any real trouble. After collecting all the keys, the ruins begin to glow, and everything seems to be going Samus's way. I just had to say something. Oh, now you're looking for a fight. What, was I just not good enough before? Oh, okay, look, the silent treatment is getting old. I mean, really, what's your damage today? And yes, I do mean other than the critical shape I put your poor excuse for a body through last time. Oh boy! Meta Ridley is here to fight, finally, and it's an all-out brawl between the two rivals, using their best weapons to try and fell one another. Though, some of the bits of the fight just kind of felt a bit to me. Overall though, it's a pretty good fight. And the way Samus is able to beat him is actually by damaging his core whenever his busted up metal suit gets broken enough to expose— Owie! What the fuck?
No, I told those bastard eggheads Jack Sparrow, not an actual fucking sparrow.
Oh, this is priceless bird brain.
Shut up!
The battle ends with Ridley as his new body is blasted into a free fall after angering the Chozo Temple's defenses. It took him long enough. Well, Ridley, you know what they say about those early birds, huh? They get shot down out of the sky by even earlier hunters. You know, I bet Duck Hunt Dog would have thought that was funny. It's weird that we both canonically know him now. After Ridley's apparent demise, you take a shot every time that happens, Samus is finally allowed entry into the crater to wipe out the poison. The place looks like a giant beating organism filled to the brim with mutated Metroids and the dangerous red Phazon, which will kill us even with our Phazon-proof suit. And after crawling through the veins of this monstrosity, we finally make it to the heart, where Samus is face to face with the great poison, Metroid Prime. It's an alright fight. The first bit ain't too bad, just having Samus switch beams to take on the creature's different colored forms, and then going into Morph Ball to dodge the ram attack. Though in the second phase is where things get interesting, as we see the beast's true form, what the Chozo referred to as the worm, or as the game calls it, the core. Here, Samus needs to switch between her different visors to find the beast, kinda like the Omega Pirate, while the beast spawns more Metroids for Samus to fight. You know, there's actually a bit of a continuity problem with the Metroid Prime here, as Metroids were not native to Talon IV until the pirates brought them here, which is like 50 years after the meteorite hit the planet. So it really makes fans wonder what the Metroid Prime even really is. Personally, I've always loved the theory by the the theory by the Orpheon, that the Metroid Prime is something else entirely, as it is found in the meteorite before the Metroids were introduced. And as we'll see through the rest of this series, this wasn't the only meteorite, and probably not the only Metroid Prime. And though it does look very similar to a Metroid, it also has a striking resemblance to a certain type of parasite introduced in Prime's sister game, Fusion. Could it be a mutated combo? No, I mean, probably not. There's really no lore for that, you know? But it still can be called a Metroid even without having a connection to the well-known parasite. Oh my god, are there really 3 evil parasites trying to corrupt/kill the universe like concurrently in this series? That's fucking crazy. But what I'm saying is, the word Metroid in the Chozo language means ultimate warrior. And I think that's a pretty good title for the corrupted kaiju currently wiping out your people. I'll link the Orpheon's video in the description or in the little notes thing on the top right, either way. Do check out his channel if you're interested in all things Metroid. And I hear they're working on an animated pilot over there for their own show, so go ahead and check that out if you want to. But maybe I'm wrong about this whole Prime Ultimate Warrior thing, as it kinda screws itself over, as eventually the beast will spawn a pool of pure Phazon, which Samus will need to stand in to activate her suit's all-powerful Phazon beam that will finally blast this bitch into a supernova. Though it does get one over on Samus by snatching that all-powerful Phazon suit, leaving her defenseless as the crater begins to explode. Because of course it does. But, of course, Samus escapes, and begins to look over the crater as she ponders. Something. I don't really know. There's probably like a million things rattling around in her poor little traumatized head. And that's Metroid Prime. Unless you scanned a certain amount of objects in the game. Because if you did, you're treated to an evil-looking eye hand popping out of the corpse of Metroid Prime. Like with the Chozo, this is a vision of things to come. Metroid Prime's story is good. The base plot is very by the numbers Metroid, with the more interesting details being hidden behind the scan logs, which was probably the best way to handle the story. Give us, the player, the choice to either take the time to experience all of Talon IV's rich history, or just bum rush through it like an action flick. Both ways are fine by me. Though again, maybe some insight from Samus would have been appreciated to really seal the deal on this story for me, you know what I'm saying? I said Samus, not you, you weird disembodied freak! And that's Metroid Prime. Everybody's second favorite Metroid. It takes everything from the 2D originals and translates it well into a phenomenal first-person shooter, with all the things we love about Metroid mixed in for good measure. This game would go on to revolutionize the first-person and action genres, giving us a peek at what a 3D Metroidvania can look like. Seriously, so many games took direct inspiration from Prime. The biggest case is Jedi Fallen Order, who took direct inspiration from Prime and Souls-likes to make an incredible experience, with a story that's filled in by scanlog-type objects strewn around its world. It's amazing. And I really should either remake that video I did on it or just let it rock and do Survivor sometime. I'm really not sure. But what did I mean about Prime being everybody's second favorite Metroid? Of course, I didn't mean that Prime is literally everyone's second favorite. But what I'm kind of meaning here is that it copied a lot from Super Metroid. Everybody's favorite. Asterisk. 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 Prime takes a lot of inspiration and takes a lot from classic Metroid, and that makes sense as this is already an experimental project. You want to take elements from what you know will work, especially if it's coming off an 8-year hiatus. That's just natural. I ain't saying Prime lacks an identity or that any of this is bad. I'm just kind of saying Prime might need something that will really set it apart for its next game. And that is something we can all agree on when it comes to Prime 2. But that's for next time. For now, Prime is a wonderful game and a must-play if you have any interest in the first-person shooter genre. Doubly so if you have a Switch. That remaster is, well, a masterpiece. The trilogy version ain't bad either. In fact, some may say it's better due to the Wiimote controls. And the GameCube version's good too. Yeah, just be prepared to work with some odd controls, at least in my opinion. Though it and the Wii version do have the GBA bonuses like the fusion suit and another way to play the original Metroid, we really almost had Crunchy Crate HD. That's fucking wild. Also, Prime Hack. Prime Hack's really good. But we'll talk about that more next time. For now, I wonder what Ridley's up to.
Oh, I'll be back, you sons of bitches!
Splish!
Fucking, I love that stupid sound effect.
Kaboom!